Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy and honored to welcome you at this European SDG Summit 2021, which is running for the 6th year in a row. Today, we are hosting the cross-national roundtable, which focuses on the implementation of the Pact for Sustainable Industry locally. Today's event is the result of the partnership between CSR Hellas, CSR Cyprus, and Forética, representing Spain. Our speakers today are Mr. Yannis Tsakiris, the Deputy Minister for Public Investments and the Growth Pact of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Athanasios Kefalas, President of the Association of Mining Enterprises and Chairman of Imeris, Mr. Angelos Kalogerakos, General Manager Greece, Titan Cement Group, Mr. Jesus Soriano, Responsible Care Manager FEIC, the Business Federation of the Spanish Chemical Industry, and Ms. Eli Ioannidou, Chairwoman of the Board of Directors of CSR Cyprus and Manager in Sustainability, CSR Bank of Cyprus. It is a great pleasure for me to represent the Board of Directors of CSR Hellas and participate in such a dynamic business and political event which targets the future of our societies, of our environment, of the future of all of us. CSR Hellas was founded in 2002, and since then our network has been at the forefront promoting and implementing corporate social responsibility in the strategies and operations of businesses and organizations, regardless of size and sectors. We aim in promoting the European and international CSR developments at a national level. Respectively, CSR Hellas conveys the voice of the Greek enterprises at the European level and debates on issues of responsibility and sustainability. Equally, all networks operating in every country in Europe share the same purpose, vision, and goal for corporate social responsibility issues which have no borders. Earlier today in his speech, the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Frans Timmermans, emphasized the importance of the Pact for Sustainable Industries as a great tool and a great initiative of the public sector that can serve both the implementation of the EU strategy, as described in the European Green Deal targeting carbon neutrality by 2050, and its sustainability strategy for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Towards this common goal, the role of national governments is extremely important. On the one hand, in integrating the evolving European regulatory framework on national level, and on the other hand, in supporting businesses to adapt on smoothly and rapidly as possible as the ambitious plan for the climate neutrality and just transition for all countries, all businesses, all people. In fall 2019, CSR Europe launched the ambitious initiative, the CEO's Call for Action and Collaboration for a New Deal for Europe, where almost 400 CEOs from businesses all over Europe signed an appeal to the EU institutions to continue the effort of collective and innovative approach for the implementation of sustainability goals and the commitments implied by the Agenda 2030. More than 15% of those 400 CEOs were from Greece, Spain, and Cyprus. But the most important legacy of this CEO call was that they stressed the need for multi-level cooperation as the most important tool to serve this pact. The main target of the European Pact for Sustainable Industry is to ensure just transition for all businesses, regardless of their sector, size, or level of maturity in relation to CSR and sustainability. Other goals by 2024 is all European industry federations will roll out a mature sustainability industry strategy. All European companies will be supported to engage in sector and cross-sectoral collaborations. All European policy makers will implement an inclusive and fair level playing field policy. One may therefore ask, why should we need a national pact for sustainable industry? The initiative primarily aims in supporting companies operating in a national context to harmonize their strategies and operations with European and international standards, as defined by the legislative and other regulatory initiatives of the European Commission. More specifically, the review of the non-financial reporting, the corporate transparency law, for due diligence on supply chain, for sustainable corporate governance, for EU taxonomies, for business and human rights, for sustainable finance and responsible banking. In addition, the initiative aims to highlight, promote, and verify a model of responsible entrepreneurship in accordance with the objectives and guidelines of the EU. At this point, I would like to give the floor to the Deputy Minister for Public Investments and the Growth Pact of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Yannis Tsakiris, who will address and highlight the role of the national governments in the path towards sustainability. Sustainability has by now become mainstream. We witnessed the strong mobility of the regulatory framework at the European level in relation to the renewed directives of corporate sustainability. Therefore, the question to all our panelists is, are companies ready for this fundamental change that will gradually affect them all? What initiatives should we expect from the state at a national level in the direction of regulation and support? Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the honor and the invitation to make this intervention to that very special and important event and also audience. I think Ms. Pali has made a very solid framework where governments should be, where companies should be, and where we should, both of us, we should move forward in order to achieve what we are asked by our children and our future to achieve. Because it's like the climate change that, as we all witness, developments are ahead of us. And we haven't, I guess, done mostly as governments on a global basis what we should have done some time ago. So allow me to start my intervention by putting Greece in the framework, in the picture as well, and after move to the subject. Greece has become one of the most attractive European destinations for investments. 7 out of 10 international investors believe that the government policy, the fiscal policy, and everything that is done centrally through the Greek government towards the development of the Greek economy is towards the right direction, and they would consider to invest in Greece. We are continuing strongly to make higher effort in supporting the educational system in Greece, the capabilities of the Greek human capital, to support sectors of technology sectors, startup companies, and in general an ecosystem that will renew the Greek entrepreneurship and economy. According to national analysts, there is also on the fiscal side of our economy, it's foreseen a gradually drop in the public debt compared to GDP and return to the debt levels that were before the COVID pandemic in 2025. On top, for example, Moody's is also rating our country's fiscal power, and it's classifying it as very resilient when it comes to a potential future external shock. And all this primarily because of the development that the Greek economy has shown the current months after the pandemic and the forecasts for the future. Similarly, the return of Greece in primary surplus is also expected to reduce significantly the debt. And the challenge here for the government is to reduce even more the primary deficit so that to reverse the negative impact of the debt in the case that interest rates are increasing. Now, this general improvement of the fiscal and I would say financial climate in Greece, in conjunction with the development, not the development, but the existence of, I would say, a significant firepower of investments that are about to come, particularly through the financing from the new structural funds program and the new recovery fund, they open the window of a unique opportunity for Greece, not only to, let's say, achieve the growth that we are all envisaging to achieve, but also to move towards the right direction of that growth. On one hand, building also resilience in the economy and in the market, but also setting the foundations of a long-term and sustainable development of its economy per se. The recovery fund and the new structural fund program, as I said, is a unique opportunity that within the next, I would say, maximum 7 years, they will mobilize more than 100 billion of euros to be invested into the Greek market. If you allow me to just go through the numbers, the new structural funds program is of 26 billion euros. The recovery fund is of 30 billion euros. There's another 20 million euros for the agricultural fund. So in total, we are 76 billion euros of public intervention. And if we also add the private funds that they will be mobilized and they will be asked to participate in those investments, as I said at the beginning, we are more than 100 million euros to be invested in the Greek economy within the next 7 years in maximum. And where this money are going to be invested, obviously, a big part of it will be invested in the green and digital transformation of the Greek economy and the Greek enterprises. And narrowing, let's say, my focus, obviously, sustainable development is the heart of this transformation. And there is where we should focus our policy, long-term policy, in order, let's say, to adapt what we want to do with what are the targets of sustainable development for a country and in a context for Europe as well. As governments, we have a series of challenges to face. And as I said before, I observe that there is a delay throughout Europe, let's say, to align our policies with sustainable development targets. But I hope this soon will end. And if I make a parenthesis, we are determined in Greece, particularly because there is firepower of investments, to align our policy towards this direction. So the challenges that governments are facing is in order for the system of investments with sustainable development to work in a harmony, but also with the highest impacts, is that still there is a lack of appropriate structures and processes of governance and coordination between several national authorities, ministries, and so on and so forth. So there's yet a system to be set for the proper cooperation of all those public authorities, and we are working on it. Second challenge that governments are facing is when setting the targets for sustainable development to facilitate the process, because I mean it's obvious that some of those targets are completely contradicting other business targets or financial targets. So there's a counterbalance, let's say, and this has to, at the end of the day, it needs a solution to be found so that contradicting targets to be as close as possible. This is something I think it's something that a major finding of OECD, a recent OECD report, if I'm not mistaken. Now, on the other hand, also the national governments have to translate the sustainable development targets into appropriate public tools. And there is, again, here a difficulty by assessing the financial impact with the policy impact. It needs a fine-tuning to be done so that all, the long-term impact of those interventions to be evident and measured appropriately. And of course, last but not least, I think national governments should make sure that their that their special tools to support continuously the the processes and measure the achievement of those targets. So it's not only for Greece, but I guess for most of the European countries, there's a long way to fine-tune and, let's say, be aligned with the targets of for sustainable development as they were set in Agenda 2030 or in the Paris Climate Agreement and so on and so forth. So, nevertheless, and here I think it's an excellent example when it comes to sustainable development, that the primary role is has to be played, and it currently is very well played by the private market, by the companies, the entrepreneurs themselves. So all those actors, they should seek together and co-design all this at the national level. All the sectors, all the companies should design, if I'm not saying not design, but lead the design of the way towards achieving those targets, so that national government, on the other hand, by following and supporting this design, to start deploying and facing the challenges that I said before, create the processes, create the structures to support this transition. Agenda 2030, together with the Paris Climate Change Agreement, I think it's our guidance for a better world on a global cooperation for sustainable development, but also something that it will make sure that our children, and I hope the children of our children, will find not a better world, but a really sustainable long-term world to live. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tsakiris, for your speech. I would just like to outline that the SMEs, small and medium enterprises, are by all means a key player in, especially in our national, but also the European economy, and the core of the supply chain network. Strategy 2030 sets out the CSR principles, which should be incorporated to these businesses, while the local implementation of the pact gives priority to the collective action of companies within the value chains. And the collaboration of smaller enterprises, we are part of the supply chain of larger enterprises, as you said, mature ones within the same sector. These larger companies can be the initiators and guide the smaller ones in the pathway towards improving their strategy and aiming in a new business context for sustainability. For this path, we definitely need the Greek state's support, and we invest on our constructive collaboration. Your thoughts are our thoughts, and we are definitely in the same track. Additionally, of course, our community definitely is looking forward to investments, and we are welcoming investors and the RRF and the funds to invest in our country. And I think that it will be soon that we will meet again in order to talk about what the next steps are towards a more sustainable economy and the goals of the agenda. Thank you very much for your support and for being here with us.
Thank you. If you allow me, I think what is needed is, as you said before, a more closer cooperation on specific items on how to start, because I feel that we still are on a vague beginning. We need to set solid foundations where we start and where we want to go. And I think soon we will draw the way towards the achievement of the targets. Thank you very much again.
I take this as an open invitation, so we will definitely meet, because I think we are one step ahead. We have companies that are in CSR Europe as well, the board of directors. Mr. Kalogerakos, I see he's smiling, and
also let's not forget what SEV has done so far when it comes to sustainable development. Who was a pioneer.
The companies, for example, Titan on our board, it's the banking sector, manufacturing sector, mining sector, that we are in very good compliance, and we can all come and we can all help you take steps towards the sustainability we are all talking about and we are all aiming. Thank you very much again. At this moment, I would just like to inform our attendees that if they like, they can use the chat function in order to place their questions for our panelists after our discussion. Today, we have the privilege to host speakers representing the key sectors of the economy, and I am eager to ask our guests, what is the level of maturity of the industries in the integration of sustainability? One of the key sectors in the manufacturing industry is the cement industry. And today we host Mr. Angelos Kalogerakos. He's the general manager for Greece, Titan Cement Group, a company that is a founding member of CSR Hellas and a member of CSR Europe. Titan Cement Group is also an initiator on an international level in the international movements such as the Cement Sustainability Initiative, having extensive know-how in a number of environmental and social material for the industry's issues. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kalogerakos, who will focus on the collaboration with peers and Titan's approach to their supply chain and how they manage to transform the supply chain into a more sustainable and resilient one. Mr. Kalogerakos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Pali. Good evening to all of you. It's an honor to be invited to this summit. I will try to explain in as soon as possible why we were in a pact for sustainable industry and why we believe in it. Titan has a long-term proven commitment. Next slide, please, if possible. Titan Group has a long-term proven commitment to comply with the national norms standards for the implementation of its purpose, to serve people and communities with sustainable and resilient infrastructure, and we aim for a carbon neutral world and a digital world. Next slide, please. So, for many years, integrity and social responsibility are core values, and with collaboration with our peers and stakeholders, we ensure that we deliver results in driving continuous improvement. Since 2002, back in 2002, 20 years from now, we have engaged in various initiatives and efforts to develop and enforce voluntary principles and standards to measure our impact and make decisions driven by stakeholder feedback, but also by measuring scientific-based data. In 2003, as Mrs. Pal said, we disclosed our first group report according to GRI, and since then we have incorporated both international standards such as IIRC and SASB, among else, as well as sector-specific standards covering material issues recognized by the cement industry. In 2007, we standardized the stakeholder engagement process and the independent assurance of our report system and its outcomes at a reasonable level. So from the beginning, we have started with a group global but sectoral approach as well to the issues. We have joined efforts with our peers to deepen our understanding of the most material issues for our sector. And we have worked together for all these years to set common standards, sector-specific, covering the measurement methodologies for our emissions, that no other industry has so far achieved. And we managed to create a database with critical information from more than 600 kilns from operations all over the world. We developed standards to manage biodiversity issues and the use of land, but also in respect to community relations and impacts. Today, the industry is well advanced in all items of its agenda for action, as set in the beginning of 2000, but there are, of course, still a lot to be done. So, besides having as a priority for us to improve, we set also our priority to transfer know-how and experience. And we have gained from our over 20 years of collaborative efforts with other peers and companies throughout the value chain a lot. We strongly believe that only through a global but sectoral specific approach, we can find the right solutions to the problems and for sustainable and inclusive growth. We engage with all the stakeholders through efforts like CSR Europe at both global and local level, and we partner with all local networks to ensure transfer of know-how and best practices on all of our topics that we're interested in. We also seek to learn from our stakeholders, and particularly SMEs that you mentioned before, that form the majority of our supply chain, how we can work together to safeguard sustainability in our markets. So to answer the question that we have said, what is the level of maturity of industry? Well, Titan operates today in 5 continents and 10 countries, while exporting in more than 30. Since 20 years ago, Titan included in its values of corporate responsibilities all the trends that we embedded in the business model. You can understand that sectors like ours, or mining, For example, Thanasis is here to say a few things about mining. Energy and oil, or even textile, are more mature than other critical sectors which are lagging behind. This is probably, it is the impact of the regulation that differs from industry to industry to make a sector becoming more mature. But we also see maturity gaps from country to country that we operate among the stakeholders. For us, it was the only way to obtain a social license to operate, as it was for the mining companies. So we have improved in all these years and reached a maturity level that we want now to give over to our supply chain as well, in order to have a fair playing field for all. This is very, very important to us, and especially critical when we look at discussions for the carbon tax or carbon pricing. We need a global sectoral approach to move to the right direction. We have been recording our commitment and follow the national standards since 2003 in our annual reports. We have invested in all our resources to take collaborative action with our peers, with other companies and stakeholders. Since the Cement Sustainability Initiative 20 years ago, we have now moved to a global cement caucus association where more than 50% of the global cement production is represented in working groups that develop common standards to monitor, measure, report, and evaluate their impacts on land, people, and communities. Next one, please. So why are we in for a national pact for sustainable industry? I think everybody said, because we need to ensure a just transition. We need to build on the maturity of all countries and sectors that are critical for the global as well as the local communities and economies. There's no chance to achieve this in a top-down approach with regulations only, no matter how impactful and right they can be. We need to create the capacity to ensure sustainability in a bottom-up approach. And for this, we need to take under consideration the conditions of each sector, of each country, and the maturity of it. We have to understand this maturity in order to have a critical impact in this transition. The motto, no one is left behind, it has to be supported by all of us. The majority of Greek enterprises, for example, are small and less familiar with global trends. The new EU strategy for 2030 can become a great risk for them, or for us as well, if we do not take action on time. To this end, Titan has signed the CEO pledge in 2009 and supports the Pact for Sustainable Industry, both from the Board of Directors of CSR Europe and the Board of Directors of CSR Hellas. I think I hope I have answered the first question of how mature things are at this time of the.
Well, we thank you very much, Mr. Kalogerakos. It was fruitful what you told us, and we clearly noted that Titan is definitely an initiator, maximizing business opportunities and strongly supporting the Pact for Industry and aiming to have a positive local impact and contribute to sustainable growth. Equally to the cement industry, mining is another key sector, as you just mentioned. It's a very important sector of our economy. And I would like to invite Mr. Athanasios Kefalas, President of the Association of Mining Enterprises and Chairman of Imeris, who is representing the mining sector, an industry with a significant contribution to almost all the finished products we enjoy today, which also records an excellent level of maturity in terms of industry approaches to enhance sustainability in companies in the industry. Therefore, how important is the cooperation for the achievement of the SDGs, and what is the role of the leading companies within their sectors and their supply chain? Mr. Kefalas, please, the floor is yours. Πρέπει να ανοίξετε το
μικρόφωνο. Thank you, Mrs. Pali, for your kind introduction and also the invitation to present what we are doing in sustainable development and growth in the mining sector of Greece. Mining and minerals are interlinked with the history of mankind and are an inherently sustainable activity. Each being historic era is effectively named after different extractive minerals that were used for flagship achievements of our civilization. The extractive industry in Greece is a source of competitive advantage of the Greek economy, accounts for more than 3% of the Greek GDP, 5 to 10% of the Greek export, depends how you calculate it, and supports more than 100,000 high-quality jobs. Our industry is a magnet for foreign investments and executes an average of 350 million euros worth of investments per year. Greek Mining Enterprise Association represents over 85% of the volume produced by the domestic extractive industry, is now home to 30 companies employing about 12,000 people and fully promoting responsible mining. The domestic extractive industry occupies less than 0.2% of the national surface, of which about 100 million square meters have been already restored or host other post-mining land uses. In this context, in order to satisfy current and future needs for minerals, mining companies should operate in a predictable environment which promotes the entrepreneurship, secures the protection of the environment, and reinforces social coherence. Our association and its members identified in time that sustainable development is a primary goal for the society and are gladly accepting its role in achieving and driving it. This way, our members can obtain and maintain the social license to operate, which is still a challenge for our industry. In this context, the members of our association adopted the Decalogue of the Code of Sustainable Principles as of 2006 and are committed in continuously improving their economic, environmental, and social performance. In compliance with this code, our members, among others, should integrate sustainable development principles in their decision-making procedures, apply business ethics and corporate governance best practices, seek an open dialogue with the stakeholders, be active corporate citizens in the areas they operate, and last but not least, publish information needed to monitor their collective progress in economic, environmental, and social performance of the branch, with emphasis in health and safety. Thus, our association publishes every year since 2007 the Sustainable Development Indexes, covering 12 areas that are considered as the most relevant with sustainable mining in Greece. These indexes are published in an aggregate mode and are monitoring occupations, skills development, health and safety, total turnover and annual production, minerals exploration expenses, local community engagements by measuring site visits, internships, monetary and in-kind social contribution, etc. Energy consumption, water consumption and recycling, land uses and restoration, waste management, hazardous substances usage, and certification according ISO 9001, ISO 9013, OSAS 181. Worth to be mentioned is that this information is considered the most reliable and is the basis used by the Greek Statistics Authority as well as the relevant ministry. Beyond this, a great part of our website is dedicated to sustainable development, with a lot of information regarding our economic footprint, the environmental protection and the restoration, as well as post-mining land use practices and showcasing health and safety performance, and the section that currently contains 25 best practices regarding sustainability. This proves that mining, and especially the members of our association, are in the forefront of doing sustainable business, and our policy proposals are based in robust and reliable data. Assessing our actions regarding sustainability, I would like to highlight the timely identification of the megatrends and the adoption of the sustainability as part of our way of doing mining, the coordinating, monitoring, and the publication of the progress in sustainable growth, provided metrics supporting continuous improvement, the use of reliable and convincing data in the dialogue with the stakeholders, improving the image as well as the social acceptance of our industry, the sharing of best practices, and the setting of an example for the rest of industries in Greece and even in European Union. And the latest development, the preparation of our members for the upcoming ESG criteria implementation. In the next round, we will discuss about the role of the leaders in sustainable development goals achievement.
I think we must congratulate you, Mr. Kefalas, for all of that you shared with us. And I noted that the industry's responsibilities and objectives, and we clearly saw through your position that you are leaders in promoting sustainability, providing your supply chain with services and experience. And you have adopted the best practices towards sustainability and the Pact for Industry since 2006.
You're right.
Following the above-mentioned sectors, mining and cement, there is another key sector of the economy, the chemical industry, which is also mature. And we have with us Mr. Jesus Soriano, who is the responsible care manager of FEIC, the Business Federation of the Spanish chemical industry, which represents the key sector of chemical industry. Mr. Soriano has significant experience in managing material for the industry's issues, and he will share with us the developing initiatives related to the viability of the industry at a European and an international level. Mr. Soriano, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and many thanks for giving to me the opportunity to inform our contribution through our European agreement. I think the most important information I could provide to you is that the chemical industry at a European level has reached an agreement about how maybe the standard in the chemical industry about sustainability. And now we are elaborating this standard at global level. Of course, our challenge is how to steward the chemical supply chain that has many implications in environmental and in sustainability affairs. Okay, next slide, please. I can see the next slide, please. No, next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, in the case of the chemical industry, we have no, before the slide before that one, the chemical industry founded his sustainability principles in a trademark, in a mark that was issued in the 80s. The name of the mark is responsible care, and the responsible care is, by definition, is an ethic. It contains the main principles in health, safety, and environmental affairs, and now is our founded storm is our founded storm about the next emerging issues of climate change, life cycle assessment, and so on. The strength principles are updating the goals and the objective through the same responsible care mark that we share at European level and global level. Next slide. The European chemical industry agreed unique standard through a self-assessment tool that we share all the national chemical industry association that we are member of the European Association, CEFIC, the name of the European Association. You can see the link to this common standard for every company committed to responsible care program. The name is the European Responsible Care Management Framework. This is a standard above 100 requirements with a linking reference with the most common ISO, as you can see there, 14,000, 9,000, 45,000, ISO 26,000, and the sustainable principle, mainly the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And this standard, this responsible care management framework requirement, are based in 6 elements. The 6 elements are our global, at world level, global principles of the chemical industry that has been assumed by 71 countries, and that are our ethics, our philosophy, our commitment with the sustainable development principles. Each one, in each country, we have more or less a flexibility to fulfill these requirements. In Spain, there are some specific question. In Germany, other specific question. In Greece, other specific question. So there is a common core. Next slide. Here it is the six main principles of the Responsible Care Global Charter. First principle is the commitment, is the corporate leadership culture. Other chapter is about the classical HSC issue, health, safety, and environmental issue. Very important, the product stewardship of the chemicals. And there are 2 very important parts of the commitment in sustainability topics that are the part 4. That are the business partner. Business partner is how we engage stakeholders, how we work with our supply chain, how we work with our community, how we work with our providers to spread our management outside of the factories, outside of the plant. In the particular case of chemical transport, there are SQIS initiative. There are a very complex common rules for the transport of chemicals, dangerous goods in the majority of times. And the 6th element is about contributing with the sustainability, where here we embrace all the relation with the climate change, biodiversity, and so on. Right? And as a result, we have now this month, we have the first results of the self-assessment of our companies, and any company could compare the benchmarking, the score that had been reached by each company or at national level, and the comparison with other countries of the chemical industry. You can see here, okay, there is a score of the I think here this is a comparison between Spain and Italy in the results about this topic, about the element 4, this about responsible providers, value chain collaboration, integrity of business, intermediate user, logistics, service provider. All these questions are developing in specific requirements. Next slide. And there is a useful link with the requirements of the okay, thank you. You can see here the benchmarking. No, the benchmarking is a pass or fail score with the current score you have obtained, and the comparison with the 17 sustainable development goals. And you could obtain benchmarking available between your company and the level to fulfill the goals of the United Nations sustainable goals. Okay, sorry for, I think, next slide. I think this is the last one. Okay, I think that this is the last one. I think there are some problems with the camera. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. Okay, these are my contribution to the debate. Thank you.
We thank you, Mr. Soriano. It was really impressive. And I would like to underline the chemical industry's initiative for sustainability applied to the sector supply chain and the sustainable performance indicators. Earlier today, we heard the Vice President of CEFIC, exactly like you said, Mrs. Kadri. She clearly stated the high importance of sustainability, exactly like you did. And I could say here that the sustainability roadmap of the 3 above-mentioned sectors certainly affects the ability of other manufacturing sectors to follow their own path of sustainability. From the heavy industry's experiences, we will now move on to the service sector, a key sector which makes the world go round. And I would like to introduce Mrs. Eli Ioannidou, Chairwoman of the Board of Directors CSR Cyprus, and Manager Sustainability and CSR of the Bank of Cyprus. She will share with us her thoughts, opinions, and experience from the Cypriot point of view. Services and banks are a vital key player of the economy. Mrs. Ioannidou, please take the floor.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation, for being here. First of all, I would like to make a small, short intro on CSR Cyprus in order to comprehend the level of maturity in the country. CSR Cyprus was founded in 2016. It's the newest CSR network participating as a national partner under the CSR Europe umbrella. Today we have almost 50 companies in the network. This is a proof that CSR is increasing, and sustainability, CSR and sustainability are increasing among the business community of Cyprus. You all know the size of the economy in Cyprus. It's a small, one of the smallest EU countries, but definitely CSR plays a key role. CSR Cyprus plays a key role in introducing CSR and sustainability in the country. CSR Cyprus actively monitors and participates in EU initiatives aimed at policy shaping and decision making. For example, we invited members, CEOs from our member companies to participate in the CEO's call to action. The Bank of Cyprus CEO, Mr. Panicos Nicolaou, among many other CEOs from other companies of Cyprus, endorsed the call to action, showing a positive and vivid interest in adapting sustainability in the operations. CSR Cyprus participated in European SDG Summits, in national and European consultations, and in the national SDG Governance Model and Action Plan workshop that actually takes place today and tomorrow in Cyprus. Furthermore, CSR Cyprus organized educational seminars on sustainability reporting, responsible tax behavior, and sustainable finance. Again, we wish to play a role in informing and educating our companies, our members on sustainability and SDGs. Furthermore, we established the Good Practices for CSR and Sustainability Awards on innovative practices and best practices for the companies to share and awarded, of course, but mainly to share with other companies to give examples and show best practices. Therefore, CSR Cyprus hopefully is improving the level of understanding and perception of changes in business in Cyprus through CSR. Regarding the maturity level, a vivid example is regarding the country's maturity, which is actually on baby steps, but getting there, fast baby steps, hopefully. Last September, during the 5th World Conference of Speakers of Parliament in Vienna, the President of the Cyprus House of Representatives, Ms. Anita Dimitriou, announced that the formulation of a long-term strategy for the sustainable development of Cypriot economy is reaching completion. This is what I said before, that we are moving there. The governance has comprehend the need to be aligned with Europe. We have to be aligned with the UN, and things are moving. We see this, everything is moving towards SDGs. Now, regarding the industry, banking industry, we have to say that sustainability reporting and materiality assessment go hand in hand in national sector standards already issued based on GRI and SASB standards. Now, the SMEs, they play a fundamental part in supply chains. Already we mentioned it, our previous speakers mentioned this. So the SMEs are called to incorporate CSR in their strategies, following the practices of leading enterprises. We want them to realize that they have no choice. In order to continue to be part of the supply chain, they have to incorporate sustainability, they have to incorporate CSR in their strategies, and reach, with the more mature companies, reach the goals of 2030. Here I'd like to add another special stakeholder, the media. The media are playing a key role in communicating and informing the people and the companies. We see a blooming of interviews, presentations, conferences, and awards on sustainability. And we see many companies participating in these initiatives. And definitely they play a key role regarding the awareness of sustainability. Now, the example of Bank of Cyprus, definitely we are targeting sustainable finance. We have been issuing the corporate sustainability report since 2017. The report is based on GRI and SASB standards. And the way of, we see this reporting procedure a way to internally comprehend all aspects of sustainability and ESG. The different departures of the bank are not fully aware that they are part of the sustainability chain. So the report actually assists our colleagues to understand that HR is sustainability, supply chain is sustainability, operations is sustainability. Therefore, all operations are part of this. It is a common goal for our departments and a goal for our company. Regarding sustainable finance, we see the pressure that the investors are putting on banks. They request specific ESG measurements, the ratings from sustainability and ESG agencies, and the emphasis on climate risks. Therefore, in order to be there, to be able to work hardly on this issue of ESG, the bank has established a sustainability and ESG committee with top management participation, and the ESG department that deals directly with these issues, that environmental, social, and governance policies and regulations have to be aligned with the bank's operations. Therefore, the challenge for the bank is to be able to make financial decisions based on sustainable finance, EU environmental and social taxonomies, etc. And of course, as I mentioned before, the incorporation of ESG criteria in loans, supply chain, HR, etc. Overall, I would say that many Cypriot companies realize the necessity to integrating sustainability and ESG metrics in their operations. They realize the need, but maybe they don't know how they will incorporate them incorporate sustainability in their operations. Therefore, they seek education and guidance from experts and more mature companies. They know that sustainability is a key factor in their strategies, and this is something that we constantly reminding them and giving them guidance, as I said before. We see many Cypriot companies, mostly large companies, they begin to undertake committed actions delivering sustainable value for all stakeholders. This is another key word that they have to understand, the stakeholders. It's not just their customers, it's their the supply chain, it's their personnel, it's the society as a whole. And finally, they have to understand that they benefit from collective actions established through multi-leveled partnerships. Nevertheless, Cyprus companies, mainly the medium-sized ones and the small companies, need to take into account that sustainability is not a matter of choice, as I already mentioned. They have to adjust before legislations and directives, because then it will probably be too late for them, and they need to understand this need. We are here to support them, to help them and educate them in any possible way. And because any attempt to ignore these warnings will negatively affect the company from all stakeholders. Thank you for this opportunity. We will continue later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ioannidou. Awareness is an important tool, especially for SMEs. And we saw that you have done a very good job, and many Cypriot companies realize that the ESG metrics are vital for their operations, and they have to adjust and be proactive. I would like to draw a note on the role of the large Greek, Cypriot, and Spanish companies as pioneers who actually help the SMEs to transform. The EU strategy for 2030 and the SDGs lead to a rapidly increasing regulatory framework for sustainable and responsible financing. I cannot help it, but since I am a representative of the Athens Chamber of Commerce and Industry as well, the ACCI consisting of mostly SMEs, I believe that by assisting SMEs to adapt to the new standards, we actually ensure their resilience and viability in order to have access to national financial resources, funding, and the recovery fund, as Mr. Tsakiris said, and their ability to remain in the supply chain of large enterprises like the ones we talked before. Funding is critical for SMEs, and the 2021-2027 recovery package of the EU supports investment in green and digital transitions to boost growth and jobs and promote economic and social resilience of EU countries. Through our panelists today, I realized that when businesses are now that businesses are starting their sustainability journey, we recognize multi-level cooperation as the foundation of the change that is taking place. I would like to ask our panelists, let's say a question a little bit different. What about stating one or two strengths of your industry or business and how you believe they are significant and they have enhanced sustainability in your market, and one or two that you think they need more improvement? Who would like to start answering? Because Mr. Kefalas answered before about the leading companies and the supply chain. Maybe you would like to answer this question. Okay, yes, Mr. Kefalas, we're listening.
Okay. Just two remarks on the cooperation, because if you would like to go fast, you move alone. If you would like to move far, you have to go to work together. So, answer to your last question, I would say that through our collective effort, we managed to have excellent examples of land restoration from the big companies, but also for the medium-sized companies, because we should 30 years ago to prove that we can rejuvenate forests, and we managed, and excellent post-mining land uses like vineyards, like artificial lakes that serves local and community needs. Another achievement for our industry is that we managed to prove that tourism and mining are not two opponents, but they can go hand by hand. And the example of Milos being an island who goes up in tourism, but also goes up in mining, is an excellent paradigm setting the principle of the balanced development of a place. If we would like to see where we have to further improve, is first of all, we have the challenge to present and prove that mining is a player, but as well as an enabler for the green economy, because we extract the majority of the needed raw materials for the green transition, from the nickel to bauxite, and from lithium to copper, which is needed for all this green transition. And of course, still remains the challenge to talk with the local communities and improve the acceptance of mining in order every time to be able to obtain the license, the social license to operate, but also maintain it, because as I said, maintaining is more difficult than obtaining.
Thank you very much. I would like to say that we can also have questions from our questions from our audience. Whoever likes can go through chat and through the chat function, and we can answer the questions. Mr. Soriano, you asked for the floor.
Yeah, from the point of view of the chemical industry, we have two phases. We shall reduce our ecological footprint. We have to improve, continuously improve in our operation, but there are other phases of the chemical industry, because we are the provider of the sustainable solution. When I say sustainable solution, I mean energy and electricity storage challenge, battery, new batteries for sodium, CO2 and hydrogen-based synthesis of the chemical, and technology for the renewable energy generation and decarbonization economic contribution in general. And I think these are our challenge. We need KPI more accurate. I think in the chemical industry, we have set one KPI very important, that in the future we need to define more accurate, is that the percentage of volume inflow raw materials and products. Is circular economy. Which percentage of the raw materials share we include in our processes, comparing with the virgin inflow, virgin flow, non-virgin or secondary flow. The total share of that, the continuous improvement of that is I think a challenge. And other topic important is how to impulse the reduction of the CO2 emission during the distribution and transport services. Transport is the most important area or sector that, from the point of view of emission of greenhouse gases emission. transport steward, transport management I think is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soriano. I see Mr. Kalogerakos would like to say a few words.
Thank you for the question. I think Mr. Kefalas already took one of our strengths, already talked about it. Biodiversity in our cores, I think, is something that we worked hard to achieve our plans for biodiversity. We are proud for what we have achieved as a company, but together with our peers, in view of standardizing process and systems to monitor and record the greenhouse emission gases, Scope 1 emissions, and all other critical data related to our impacts. It is also significant that we have developed common agenda for action for these, and we have acknowledged among the material issues that we have to work further. Business ethics and good governance, I think we're on a good level, but diversity and inclusion, where the sector is not so advanced as it is required. While I will agree with Mr. Soriano that we need to improve our engagement with our suppliers to increase their capacity to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions too. We already work on measuring Scope 3 emissions, but we have very serious challenges, including the lack of reporting experience or specific measuring standards for other sectors, like the case of transportation, that we need to set new standards and try to cover that sector too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalogerakos. I would like to ask Mrs. Ioannidou to take the floor.
Thank you. I will also like to comment on the human resources issue briefly, saying that companies did not connect it with CSR and sustainability. In Cyprus, we witness large companies and medium-sized companies that they are increasing the value they add to their people, through a series of internal procedures and actions. They dedicate days for corporate volunteerism, and they begin to associate work measurements with well-being. And of course, they focus more on improving working conditions and rewards. Definitely, companies should realize that their people are their ambassadors, and basically no computer or any other device can replace the passion and the heart of a personnel. Now, regarding improvement, staying again on the same issue, I'll have to say it's diversity and inclusion. Maybe through the policies, the regulations, they are there, we have them, we accept them, we know that it's the right thing to do. We only have to implement them, not just in our professional life, but also in our everyday life, in schools, starting from schools and moving on to professionals. Therefore, definitely, this is something that I would say that we have to work on and develop and reach the right level of maturity on diversity and inclusion in our workplace.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ioannidou. We have a question from the audience. How much the current energy crisis can delay sustainability roadmaps, as we are already in the middle of a sociocentric pandemic crisis? Who will take the challenge?
I think Jesus Soriano, fake.
Yes,
I think
Mr. Oriano.
somebody has raised the hand.
Mr. Kalogerakos, yes. Mr. Kalogerakos, Titan Cement Group.
I was going to say, in some ways, going to increase the pace of change, this energy crisis. I think everybody will realize that we need to move faster into this transition and make bigger steps in it. Of course, the pain is going to be bigger as well. It's not only the pace, but the pain that the society, the companies themselves, all the sectors are going to have to bear, especially sectors that they have carbon leakage. They're on the carbon leakage list. They're going to feel much more the issues of this change, and we feel it already. So we need to move faster, but we need to have the right rules out there so we have an equal playing field. Otherwise, we will not be able to make the transition with all the players hand in hand, or with everybody being inclusive. That's my opinion. As soon as I heard the question, I mean, yes, the energy pricing and the environment is going to move things faster, but we have to do it right too.
Thank you, Mr. Kalogerakos. Mr. Soriano?
Yeah.
I thought you wanted to...
Now, I think the increasing prices of the energy in Spain is first on the political agenda, first at social level, and I think this is a typical example maybe of how care we should have in the milestone of the sustainability. I think has been demonstrated there is a very high dependence of the natural gas. There are many, I think 100% of the power station that use carbon have been closed in Spain. All our energy depends now on natural gas. And this had created a very high prices that compromise the objective of the sustainability. I think we have to learn lessons, because now all the topic that is above of that now currently is the main flows of goods between China and the States. I think apparently very little changes in the general economic global supply chain of the goods could affect to the local economy. It's a complex situation. I think when we go, we have to go beyond. So beyond the sustainability, we have to go beyond with ambitious goals. So it's very important to have responsibility in these main topics. So economical growth, issues as transport and energy. I think these two vectors, we have to control that, because may occurs what happened with the natural gas now. And I think this is not exactly a reflection about sustainability. Is a reflection about economy growth at global level. I think a balance is needed. Thank you.
Well, balance is needed everywhere in life. That is what we are taught. However, if we start now the conversation regarding the United States and the threat of China, carbon, shipping, The oceans. I think we need another roundtable.
Another day.
It's extremely important. But I think that if we start these issues now, it will not be. It's not the issue for now.
No.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? We still have 5 minutes. No, I think everything was so clear. And well, I would like to conclude then, if it's okay with you, except if any one of our panelists would like to say something more. Okay. Well, through your positions, one can conclude that for the achievement of any ambitious sustainability goal, it is of a paramount importance not just to follow a traditional top-down approach, but to focus also to a bottom-up one, incorporating SMEs and the supply chain at large. Secondly, in the new business environment created by the changes mentioned earlier, the responsibility of the top management for integration of international principles and standards and the control and measurement of results will be linked to quality and to the appropriateness of the business model followed to ensure sustainability. A natural consequence of such a development is the need to ensure sustainability in terms of environmental and social impact and transparency. And it is the task of initiators, leaders like you, to transmit know-how to your supply chains consisting mostly of SMEs, talking of our countries. Thirdly, following the question from the audience, the current health and energy crisis we are witnessing, the just transition, the Green Deal carbon neutrality for 2050, and the Paris Climate Agreement all need a pace of response, not just announcements. And therefore, I would really like to make an invitation and call all of us, the national partners and organizations, to work together with CSR Europe for the Pact and giving our examples and our experience to them, because I believe that we are on call and alert as governments, as businesses, as networks, as individuals, to accelerate and to move on towards the SDGs and a more sustainable world. On behalf of CSR Hellas, I thank you all once again for being here with us. And I'm looking forward to our next meeting, where we can discuss the achievements and the implementations of the Pact for Industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
Alexandra, θες κάτι?